Ceiling. How did I do my ceiling? I get a lot of questions about this. You can see some of it from here. I'm going to go a little more detail in it in a moment. But my entire ceiling is illuminated. It is, they call it translucent. And I wanted to kind of create a feeling of the sky. I want to feel like when I'm in the camper, I don't just have these little spotlights pointing down in a few spots. And then there's these shadows in between them. I wanted it to be really a continuous, call it glow of light, just like when you're outside and the sky is, you know, glowing. And so you could be out there reading a book outside and you could read it anywhere. I wanted the same effect inside the van here. I wanted the lights to kind of just disappear and the whole ceiling to be just this seamless with no transitions and like no carpet. Again, I wanted it to be where water spray could hit it from while I'm taking a shower, soapy hair hit it, whatever. And I wanted it to be pretty thin and I wanted a lot of height. And I also needed it to curve because the van roof curves quite a bit, which adds to the challenge. So let's get into how I attach the ceiling, because that is complex. What I did is I installed rib nuts into the factory holes or in the ceiling structural members. I didn't drill any new holes. There's already a ton of holes up there. I just found rib nuts that fit those sizes of the holes that Mercedes, you know, has from the manufacturing process. And I put rib nuts up into those holes that fit that. And then I installed two of these. This is a Fiberglass U Channel. It's 2 inches wide, 1/2 inch tall, 1 inch thick. That's an 1/8 inch thick. This is structural. It is incredibly strong. I could stand on this in the middle and have this spanned on 2 sides and it would not even flex. This is made to be a structural component. It's made to replace steel, aluminum, or wood as a structural element. And so it's super strong. It cuts fairly easy, although it does create a little bit of fiberglass dust, so you got to take care of that when you're cutting it. But it does kind of chew up drill bits when you drill it, because it is a hard material. The fiberglass, you know, strands are abrasive, but it is incredibly strong. Can't absorb any moisture. You can use this. It's rated for outdoor use. It's often used as roof decking materials and roof platforms and things like that, or hold up air conditioning equipment on top of roofs, because it can sit out in the sun for its whole life. It's not going to degrade, corrode, or deteriorate from water and weather and stuff. So I then I put also rib nuts into these every foot or two. I can't remember, roughly something like that my ceiling panel will mount to. So this got mounted up to the ceiling with the holes drilled through it to my ceiling rib nuts that are in that, which, remember, there's now a sheet of reflective foam core between that and the metal structure of the van. And so I've got already a thermal break. This is thermally broken. The rib nut goes into those two things. Now that screw is thermally broken because it's separated and encased within this airspace here. And so now I ran 2 of these down the full length of the van. 4 of them. One like about 1 foot in from the edges, or maybe less than that, 6 to 12 inches. The other 2 kind of like about 2 or so feet from the center line. And so that gave me 4 attachment points for my ceiling material to attach to. So that's how I gave that structure and gave the ceiling material now this gap. So the ceiling material sits on the other side of this. For the ceiling itself, and this is a challenging part, and I'm gonna say this right up front with a disclaimer, I don't recommend doing your ceiling exactly the way I did it. With a small change, it's gonna be way better and easier. I'll talk about that. But if you really want to do this, go for it. It creates a really cool look. It's a neat way to do it. It adds a lot of value, but it also is challenging. So it was the most challenging part of my entire van build, as far as the amount of effort that went into doing it. So this is, it's 1/8 inch thick acrylic. It's a frosted acrylic. And so it's got, right now it's got these protective plastic sheets on it. There's some leftover. You peel those plastic sheets back and you have this really nice shiny acrylic. It's very scratch resistant. It actually has a scratch proof coating on it. Again, you can get these in different gradients of frostiness or light transmission. And I can't remember what I did. I think I went with like a 70%, but I have to go back and look. This was 4 years ago now that I installed this. And so it allowed 70% through, which was my calculation that I probably would not really be able to directly see the lights and or the structure behind it, which is what I wanted, but still let enough light through. And if you look at that, you can definitely see where my light strips are, but you really can't see them or the structure, things like that. That's all hidden behind this. It is very strong. It's actually, you can break it eventually, but it is pretty challenging. You know, it is flexible. So that flexes with the van ceiling, which was key, the curvature of that. It's thermally broken, it can't absorb moisture. And I can also get this there, big thing on this, and this is a big tip, is it's not hard with the van ceiling, but I could, for the length, because it's 14.5 feet roughly from the front of the ceiling to the back of the ceiling. So let's just round up to 15 feet, or to 7.5 foot long, so 8 foot long, you know, sections will accommodate that, which just came in. But also, the van ceiling, I believe, is like 52 inches or something at the ceiling, so a little bit wider than 58 inches, or 48 inches, 4 feet. So I was able to get this in, I think, a 60-inch dimension, and I think that's what I got. It might have even been 55 or something. So I had to cut down a little bit. And also, believe it or not, the van walls curve in as the van goes down the length, which is very frustrating and challenging. So I had to accommodate the curvature of the van going down, obviously the curvature horizontally going across the ceiling. That was easy. And then, of course, the hard part, this is where the real challenging part was matching up the holes pre-drilled in this with the holes in my Fiberglass U channel that I showed you. This. So the hole in this with the rib nut and the hole in this acrylic would have to match up. That was challenging. That took a lot of time. It took a lot of time taking these panels in and out. In order to do that, I bought 3 of these panels thinking I better have a spare just in case. My shipping was free to pick it up locally, but I figured let me just buy 3 to make sure I have an extra. It was a good thing because I ended up screwing one of them up just ever so slightly, and so I just started with a new sheet. So I ended up discarding, or I shouldn't say discarding. These are remnants of one of them I still have over there, the other big one, that I'll use for some other project coming up, maybe my next build, which I'll talk more about soon. So let's get to what I suggest if you want to do it this way. Again, it's a cool look, it's illuminated. I would not use 1/8 inch. I would go thicker, 3/16 or even quarter. You can see it's got plenty of flex at 1/8 inch. 3/16 probably still plenty of flex, and even at quarter, probably more than enough flex for the horizontal curvature of the van roof. It'll give it more strength, it'll give it a little more body, it'll cut down the light transmission. It'll be a little more work drilling the holes, but not by much, but it'll be a lot stronger that way too. And you won't have to put as many screws in. So I don't know how well you can see that. I'm gonna give you a tour here soon, but you can see some of the screws up in there through that. So that is what this panel is. This panel here is the same thing, just a bigger sheet of it, and a little hard to pick up with one hand like that. And that's of course got its plastic protective covering over the plastic. So that's what that is. And this is, by the way, acrylic is also known as plexiglass, Lexon. There's a whole bunch of other kind of like industry names or brand names for it. When it's thick enough, it's bulletproof. So it is strong. It's pretty impact resistant, but obviously you've got to make sure those holes line up, and that's the real challenging part with it. So now let's go in. Let me give you a little more. Okay, lighting. Some of you asked, or a lot of you asked about the lighting, and when people see my van often, they're like, hey, that's cool, and they turn on all different lights, like, oh my gosh. I have a lot of light circuits. I don't remember, I remember counting it up once, but I have a lot. But let me show you like some of the features I thought. As far as lights go, here's what I have for my lights. I have garage lights back here. I have my front lights that I'm in right now, and so you can see how that works. And also my ceiling. And then also I have another set circuit here for the rear lights, and so those also dim up and on, and so that covers just the rear. I can now dim off the front and dim that down, and so I just have these rear lights. And so the idea is that the whole ceiling essentially glows. You see the ceiling is continuous all the way from side to side, all the way from the back, all the way up. There's only this one overlapping spot right here, and then all the way to the front here. I'll turn the ones back on here. And then I also have one more circuit, and that's over the entryway in the kitchen here. And that's this middle one also in a dimmer. So these also can dim up. And when I turn these other 2 off right here, then I have just the kitchen area here lit, which is really nice for just making a meal or washing your face at night. A mirror right here to rinse your face off. And so that's all controllable from this one spot. I also have, I should show you a night light circuit. So let me turn these off and I'll turn the night light circuit on. And so that's these little lights here. They also light not only the shower controls, but also you can see the closet. And then there's another little one back here just to light up the back of the garage space so you can see around there. And then if I turn around here, this cabinet here, there's a reason why these are translucent, because that light, that cabinet is actually lit up and it lights this area. There's also another one right here just to light down so you can see we're nice and dim. There's one also in the front seat base here, or two of them up here. So they light up the front seat base and this cabin, this area up here. There's even a one up here, but that's on because this slider door is open. So let me close that. And there we go. Now that's shut off because that comes on with the rear, the slider door being open. So I shut that off. And then also here by the slider door in the step here, to make sure that's lit up, I have another light right here. And so it lights up, of course, the bottle opener here, which, you know, maybe is important at night. But most importantly, really, it lights up the slider step and the door, but yet it's a nice diffused light. So that's one way to do that. The other thing I do is while driving, if I'm up here in the driver's seat and I am driving, I can actually see what's going on in the back. Let me turn these night lights off. If I'm up here in the driver's seat and I'm driving and I want to see what's going on in the back, also from right up here above the driver's seat in my overhead lights, I do also have a set of well, two things. One, what I call my cockpit lights, and these are just really extra map lights here. They're very bright to light up the cockpit, which is really nice. But I also have these lights, and so I have one strip that goes all the way down. So while driving, I can simply turn these on. They're not too bright. They're a nice, softer yellow light, so they are easier on the eyes when driving at night. But it really helps just to be able to look back if something's slid off, fallen off from somewhere or whatever, to look back and see what it is and resolve it.